So let's start with the World Series. I can't imagine the vulnerability and how stripped you feel when you're standing there at the pitcher's mound in front of the globe and you're about to sing one of the most difficult songs in the world that there is to sing, period. So what are your emotions in that moment?
Oh, I'm going to tell you, my daddy's a Braves fan. It's the only reason I did that deal, so my daddy could go to the World Series, because I think that's the most nervous I've ever been in my life. And it's because I've messed it up before. And let me tell you, people called me un-American when I was 16 years old and I messed it up, and people literally said I should be kicked out of the country and that I was un-American. It's not a song that you're allowed to mess up. Not even once. So I haven't never done it since. Like it scarred me so badly that I've never done it again. And I always said it would take the Braves going to the World Series to get me to go. And I'll be danged if they didn't go. And I'll be danged if they didn't call. So there I was.
Yep.
Marching my hind end out there to that pitcher's mound. Just.
So what did you learn about yourself by facing those bullies?
Hey, I killed it. I am so proud of that.
You did a great job.
It's also one of the most, amazing moments of my life, because I don't have a lot of fear with performing. I don't really have very much at all as far as performing goes, except for the national anthem, because of something that happened to me. I was really young, and it was a really big deal, and I faced it. So that made me pretty proud. I'll never do it again, but I did it.
So you're done. I was going to ask you. So you're done? You're one and done now. Super Bowl. What the Super Bowl calls, Lauren? Super Bowl calls.
If I got asked to do the Super Bowl, I would probably consider it.
I have friends who are artists who have said to me countless times, I will never, ever, ever, ever do the national anthem. I just won't do it. And one of them, actually, the Super Bowl called, and he did it anyway. But he did have help. He had help when he did it. So maybe there you go.
Hey, well, I brought my guitar player.
I know.
I was like, I'm not standing up there by myself.
I noticed that you looked at him for a substantial portion of the performance. Was that a defense mechanism or a comfort mechanism?
Yes. I felt comforted it's not even the amount of people in the stadium. Like, I've performed in that stadium on tour with Jason Aldean and was not nervous. It's this song. So just looking at him, and I was like, please, dear Jesus.
I know that you've been very vocal too about depression. And facing that and managing that. So explain to me how you have to do that. What's the process for you of managing that?
Well, I have lots of different techniques. I've been through quite a bit in my 27 years, and I've actually struggled with depression and anxiety disorder since, well, I guess most of my life, honestly. I wasn't really diagnosed with it until I was older, but I was raised in a household with alcoholism, and a couple of pretty traumatic things happened early in my childhood, and I didn't have the tools, obviously, to deal with a lot of the things that happened, and I ended up having a pretty severe eating disorder for a really long time, and just did not take very good care of myself. So I would say around 20 years old, I started trying to find other ways to cope with the things happening, like meditation and praying and staying on a schedule. It's really important for me to be on a schedule. I need to eat well, drink a gallon of water every day. Girl.
I love it.
That is the minimum I'm allowed to drink. I've got this one too.
You're packing all kinds of heat.
Hey, you don't even know. Well, I'm hiding the other. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I try to drink a lot of water, and I try to keep myself on a schedule. And I found if I get off of it, it really throws me off. And this pandemic, obviously, what was a schedule? So I really struggled the last couple of years. I actually went to the doctor and I went on antidepressants to help me get through the time. And now I'm getting back to a schedule, so I'm feeling like I'm needing less support and I'm able to kind of take care of myself. But I think it's different for everyone. But for me, I think it's important, if I'm giving advice, is to know what helps you. And for me, it's eating well, exercising daily, drinking water, meditating, praying, reading. I love to read, finding quiet time because I'm super extroverted, but that also wears me down after a while. So I kind of have a routine that I try to stick to, and it works for me.
One thing that I find impacts my mental health is social media. And I will say this again. I said this to someone else with whom I was chatting this morning, that comparison is the thief of joy. And we use those mediums and we try to put on this certain vision of the way we're living our lives. But so many social media avenues can be so vile and so ruthless, especially for people in the public eye. So, and you're very active. How do those mediums impact your mental health?
Whew, that's a good one. Okay, so I have restrictions on my phone. Actually, I started doing this about a year ago, especially because the pandemic, I was sitting home and I found myself like on my phone all the time. So I didn't even know you could do this. Someone told me. I restrict my social media apps to an hour a day. So if I'm on them longer than an hour, they shut off. And I found that first of all, I'm reading more and doing other things more with my day that make me feel better about myself. And I don't have as much time to read what people have to say about me. Usually that hour of my day is, we try to post once a day. It's been a little difficult in this time because I'm not doing as much, or I haven't been. I'm very busy now, but before it was a little hard to post every day, but I work every day to make sure I have a post. I'm very hands-on with that, and pretty much in control of all the content going on my pages. And then I try to, get off of it and find other things to feed into my ego, because really what we're all trying to do is go and see good things about ourselves.
That's it.
Right?
You nailed it.
So we're going to those websites for affirmation, and that's a lack internally already. If you're going to seek it, you feel like you don't have it. And then when you already feel like powerless or like something's bothering you about yourself, you're accidentally going to find that. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to obsess over that, and the problem just gets worse. So I try not to read DMs. I try not to read the comments. My team's pretty good about too. They have access to the page. So if you ever think you're going to send me a DM and somebody else ain't going to see it, you are wrong. Somebody sees them before I see them. I can almost promise you.
Shut it down, Jack. I'll tell you, you're extremely astute. I've battled the same thing, and I will tell you, back in about the middle of the football season, I had a moment where my mental health was so lower than I can ever remember in my life, and I've gone through some shit, where I stopped using Twitter. I stopped it. I wanted to delete Twitter specifically altogether, but my wife is an extremely astute and savvy human being, and so basically she runs it. I mean, she runs it, and I will post because, just like you, I have corporate partners, and they want us to be active on those mediums, and so we stay active on them. But I do not read anything. I don't look at what you think about me.
Yeah, it really only matters what you think about you.
Yep. And the people in your sphere.
And the people that you spend your time with, it's a hard lesson to learn. A few years ago, I was in a relationship where we were both pretty consumed with the internet, and that was a good one. I learned a lot of lessons from that relationship because he was obsessed with what people thought about him. And then I kind of fell into this. And then our whole relationship was just really posting on the internet and trying to make like funny videos together. And then there was this, I don't post any relationship anymore. I have had a boyfriend for over a year and I've never posted him. He's mine. I don't have anything to prove with him. You know, I have things that are sacred to me now, and that's something I didn't have before. And I think in this time, we're all so worried about what everybody else thinks that we want to just post this like highlight reel of our lives. And, you know, someone said to me, well, your social media is really for your business. For me, like I have a personal Facebook that, you know, I occasionally check to keep up with people that I went to school with and things like that. And that feels separate to work for me. But social media for me is work,
Same.
you know, and so I'm really careful to post my nephews. And like a big lesson for me as well on the internet was I posted my nephew's Christmas recital and you could see the name of his school. And my sister-in-law said, please don't post that. It was like, oh my gosh. But then I was like, well, I should have just been watching anyway. Why was I like trying to show the world how cute my nephew is? Like, it's none of their business. That is my family. And so my personal life's pretty separate, honestly. I mean, occasionally I'll post like something funny with my family, but I've restricted it a lot and it's changed my life.
You are so, I know you're a young person. You are. And
Thanks.
But you are so far along in terms of your emotional, your emotional stability and foundation, and obviously you're centered. You can't say these words unless you have found some sort of center. How many people are you genuinely close to? I mean, like really close. I don't mean like, hey, that's my buddy. I mean like
really, really close relationships that
yes, ma'am.
Outside of family?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so friends. 15.
15's
and that includes my band and like, but they feel like family to me. So that's that. But me including my band, and I would say about 15 people, maybe 20.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm not famous. You're famous. I'm a guy who can walk into the restaurant over here, especially if it's a SEC football town, and people will go, "Oh, hey, what's going on, Marty? Great to see you." But you go everywhere and people know who you are. Fame's not an easy thing to manage.
No, it's not.
What did you learn about fame that you didn't expect was coming, and how does that impact your life?
So I mean, I came into the public eye at 15.
Yep.
I was on American Idol, so that's a pretty impressionable age. Not pretty. It is the most, I would say, impressionable age.
Tip of the spear, Lauren. Tip of the impressionable spear right there.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I was a sophomore in high school, and I just loved to sing. And I tried out for American Idol, and I got second place, and I got catapulted into fame. And I think the best thing that ever happened to me, and I just wrote a book, actually, and
I want to discuss
talk about this in my I talk about this in my book, but I became instantly famous. I didn't become instantly successful. So, and I talk about this in the book because fame is just it's like this made up thing that people just like elevate. They know more about me, but I don't have like superpowers. I'm not like a hero or anything. I just happen to be able to sing, and people liked it and voted for me, and my life changed, and more people look at me and pay attention to what I'm doing. But as a 16-year-old, I was really unprepared for that, obviously. And I brought up the success and the fame thing because honestly, I wasn't super successful in my career at first. I mean, comparison, right? For where I am now and what I've achieved now, the first 5 to 6 years of my career were very difficult, lots of no's, couldn't pay my bills for a few years. I was still famous. people still stopped me everywhere I went, telling me how lucky I was, telling me how they wish they had my life. And I'm trying to like maintain this like false narrative that I'm like,
Everything's great.
I'm
Yeah.
rich. I'm a successful. I'm like a
Yeah.
superstar. And so that was a good lesson for me early on. First of all, it taught me to work hard because I am now, I would say, very successful.
Yes, ma'am.
And being unsuccessful early on made me hungrier for success, I would say, made me work harder, made me appreciate it more now. But it also taught me that it's all perception because I was severely struggling financially, personally. I had a severe eating disorder. Like my health was not going well. And people still thought like, oh my gosh, Lauren Alaina's this, Lauren Alaina's that. And I think it just taught me that it is all like perception and not necessarily reality. And that people kind of believe what you tell them, you know? And so it humanized all famous people to me. Because I thought, well, I'm probably not the only one that's struggling.
No doubt.
And then other people that are famous became my peers, and we're all struggling. We're all humans, and like Instagram and Facebook has like falsified all of our lives and made people think that we're like these perfect humans that walk around with this perfect skin and these perfect lives, and none of us are perfect. No one's perfect. One person's ever been perfect. Yep. The end. Yep. So, I think being famous so early and having a couple of missteps kind of just taught me that it's an amazing thing that I've achieved. And I'm the more famous you are, the more people you can reach. And I would not take away the fame because I love connection, you know, and the more fame I have, the more connection I have. But I've also had to put a lot of boundaries around it because it can't be my definition. Because as soon as you let your fame define you, it's not a real thing.
I'm going to say it one more time. You're so smart beyond your years. I mean, it's pretty remarkable, and I love it. Don't want to belabor this, but there is probably going to be somebody listening to this chat that you and I are having who's going through an eating disorder or going through some sort of anxiety battle or going through something where they're trying desperately to change something about themselves. What would your message be to them?
Okay, this is not a plug, but it kind of is. I wrote this book. I would say read the book because I'm going to give you like a small summary of what my advice is, but the whole reason I wrote the book was for that person, whoever you are. The book's called Getting Good at Being You, and it's kind of, I laid out all of the hardest things in my life, really put it out there and how I overcame them. And what I would like to say is, and this was really important for me to convey in the book, I am the most outgoing, smiley, loud person you'll ever meet. You would have never thought at any point in my life I was depressed. I was having 10 panic attacks a day. I was going through horrible breakups. I was losing my stepfather to cancer. Through all of that, I got on that stage and I smiled and I performed and I pushed through. And what I would really like to encourage people to do is give themselves grace, because there is no one who's not going through something. And we have a really hard time seeing ourselves like from the outside looking in. So I have the whole book says it, but there's a chapter in the book called If I Was My Best Friend. And I really encourage people to become their own best friend. And I would say, don't say something to yourself that you would not look at your best friend and say, or your child and say, or your mother, or someone the person you love the most in this world. You wouldn't look at them and say that. You should not look at yourself and say it. It's very hard to do. I have to practice what I preach every day. I wake up with the uglies. I don't have some kind of equation I have solved There are days where I am very negative about myself and I say things I shouldn't say. It is a process. No one has ever arrived at the place of like, oh, I'm amazing. But this book is very encouraging in the fact that we all are going through something, and I've had different steps in my life where I thought, oh, hey, I've got it, and then something else happens, and you have to go back through and reset yourself again, you know. But I would say grace for yourself is number one, and talking to yourself in a way that's loving, because you're the only person you can never, ever, ever get away from. You can change your partner. You can change your job. You can change everything in your life except for hanging out with yourself. You can't get away from yourself ever. So I would say become the best version of yourself that you can. Be kind to yourself when you mess up, and love yourself like you would love somebody else.
Getting good at being you. That is hard to do. What is the challenge of enjoying and being genuinely who you are?
Everything. For me, it's. I think that's probably why most of my music's about it. Why I wrote a book about it, because it is the most challenging thing in my life.
Yeah.
I am so much better at loving other people than I am at loving myself. Like, that is just a fact.
Why?
Everyone in my life would probably.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. This is why I go to a therapist. I think it's probably a little true for everyone to a certain extent, but for me, I guess, probably because I became famous so young, and there were so many people looking at me at such a tough age, and I wasn't really a person yet, and I let a lot of people kind of jerk me in a lot of different directions, and then I wasn't sure who I was at all, and then I kind of had to start over at 20. So probably mostly that, but I would say it's been an internal battle for me from day one for whatever reason. I mean, everybody has their thing. That's kind of been mine, but I also, I take that on now because I think God has blessed me with this life, and I got to do the right thing for me always. You know, I've got to make sure I'm taking care of me so that I can talk about it and promote that healing and health for other people.
Yeah,
but it is definitely hard.
People need hope, man. And that vulnerability and willingness to share those things is so empowering to all of those people who need to hear it, but it's even more empowering to you. Because when you get to that place, when you sing and you write and you're vulnerable, my gosh, it's so powerful. And I wrote a really vulnerable book a couple years ago, too, and it did really well. And I'm going to tell you something that somebody told me. Do you know who John Gordon is?
No.
John is an extremely successful author. He's written tons of books that have impacted people's lives. And he told me, I was at Clemson University doing a college football story once, and my book was about to come out. And he said to me, he goes, look, he goes, your book is you're going to put it out. It's going to sell. Blah, blah, you'll do some speaking engagements, but what you don't know is coming is it's going to take on its own life. And it's going to have several iterations of that life. And feedback is going to come back to you that you're not expecting. And Lauren, that's exactly what's happened to me. I thought what I was going to get back was, oh, that's neat that you interviewed that person and spent that time with that person and went to that country with that person. That is not what I've gotten back. What I've gotten back is I needed hope. And you were that line for me. And that's exactly, I'm telling you, I know you got this new record out. The record's really vulnerable. By the way, it's fantastic. I know you're going on tour. You're about to join the freaking Grand Ole Opry as a full-time member. We're going to talk about that. I mean, it's that willingness to be yourself, your genuine self. Look at me. I am self-confident in who this is empowering people. And you should be as proud of that as anything that you've done.
Thank you.
It's huge.
Oh, I need to talk to you more.
Well, I'll make sure that you get my address so that the check can come, or Venmo or something, you know.
Yeah, I paid him to say that.
Nothing could fill your tank more than one of your heroes walking out on the grandest stage in all of country music. Look, I'm just going to give you the floor, because that moment made me a little misty-eyed when I mean, it was a phenomenal moment. Just go.
I still cannot believe it. When my manager and I started working together 7 years ago, almost 8 years. It'll be 8 years. Well, we're in our 8th year. Anyway, we made a list of goals, and I reached them all, except for being a member of the Grand Ole Opry. So I've been like, I really want to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry. It's like, I want it more than a Grammy. I've said it in every interview, and I'm telling you, I'm hard to surprise. I'm nosy. I like to be in the middle of everything. I need to know everything happening at all times. I need to be prepared. I need a plan. I need a schedule. And so I walked out on the Grand Ole Opry. I play there once a month already, which is actually what the members are like. That's part of the gig.
That's the requisite, right? Yeah.
But I exceed that already just because I love it. It is the most important stage to me by far. Holds so much in my heart. And I walked out there, and they were doing like these video promotions all night, and I'd seen them all night. And then, you know, they said pause between your second and third song because there's a video that's going to play for the military or something. I can't even remember what it was for. It's all a blur, really. But I look back, and Trish Yearwood comes up on this thing, and she and I are very close. She wrote the foreword to the book. I've been on her cooking show a few times. She calls me Trisha Jr. I'm in her phone as Junior, like very close with her. So I was just like, oh, there's Trisha. And she goes, Junior, is that you? And I was like, oh, that's cute. They told her that I was going to be playing when she recorded the video. She goes, hold on. I got to come tell you something. I got a surprise. And I was like, what is she talking about? So then she like walks out on the stage. Well, the book had just come out. So that's where my brain went. Is she's coming to tell me something about the book. We've done something awesome. This is so neat. And I'm like, hey. And she was like, oh, I know your mom's here. And my mom was there. I didn't know that. And she said, and your dad's here. I had this really funny moment where I was like, oh no, my dad is not here. That is my stepdad. And this is very awkward. So I was like, I'm like looking around, like, you know, when you're embarrassed and you're like trying to look, and I'm like looking to my left, I look to my right, and I'm like, I'm on stage. What am I? And then they like turn the lights up, and she goes, no, your dad's here. And I saw my dad, and my dad and I have this thing where he gives, like, when I was little, I always held his pinky. And so I look, and in the back of the Grand Ole Opry, I see my dad's pinky. Mm. And you can see, if you watch the video, you can see the light bulb go ding. And I go, because I knew no one would let that happen without my dad being there. And so I think when I realized Dad was there, I was like, oh, it's happening. I like collapsed to the floor. My legs were like, we need to be closer to the ground. And I was genuinely surprised. And the fact that Trisha Yearwood and Garth Brooks like showed up just to ask me, I was like, what is my life? It will go down as probably, hopefully my wedding's better. And when I have babies will be better. But so far, that's up there.
All right, I got a couple more. I don't want to keep you too long.
No, you're fine.
I can't imagine what it's like to what's it like to hang out with Garth Brooks?
You know what? He is such a nice man. Like,
tell me a story.
Women man. When he meets women, he takes his hat off. Like, he's genuinely like, and he called himself that night. I said, Garth, thank you so much for coming. You know, I've met him a few times, mostly at the Opry, actually. And then he invited me to a show when Trisha, and a few years ago, I went to a show in Chicago or something to see them. But I was like, gosh, thank you for being here. Trisha, of course, I have a relationship with. I don't know Garth as well as I know her. You know, I haven't spent as much time. And he goes, oh, hey, don't mention it. I'm just Mr. Yearwood tonight, which I love.
Mr. Yearwood.
Mr. Yearwood. He's awesome. He's awesome. And he, like, teared up telling me about the night that you actually become a member is going to be like the most special night, and I'm so excited. They're just amazing people, both of them.
I feel like everybody in Nashville, Tennessee has a John Pardee story because that boy has lived a life. Tell me a John Pardee. Tell me the Lauren Alaina John Pardee story.
Okay. This is my favorite one to tell. So, John and I are very, very close. Like, he's like my brother. I've known him for 8, 9 years, probably. We've done a million things together. 2 songs, countless nights out. Just one of my greatest buddies. Well, I had a new boyfriend. And, apparently, this boyfriend made the not so smart decision to ride a bird scooter with this girl before he was my boyfriend. We were not dating at the time. John Pardee was filming a music video on, like, in front of the pedestrian bridge. It was like the background. So they had like security guards on each side for however long that shot was. Well, my ex-boyfriend had gone through there, like driven past the security guard, shooting his middle finger up, like causing a scene, being very immature, and just acting a fool. Well, fast forward, I don't know, 6 months later, this guy's my boyfriend. I have no idea this has ever happened. We are in a bar. My boyfriend and I are there, and we walk up, and I say, John, I want you to meet my boyfriend. And he goes, oh, I know who your boyfriend is. Real funny guy. And I was like, yeah, he is really funny. Yeah. And he was like, I don't like that guy. He's not a good guy. In front of him. And I'm like,
what did you do? What did you do?
I was like, shut up. I like played it off. I was like, shut up. You're so funny. And he was like, no. He like rode a bird and he told me the whole story. My boyfriend at the time was like, that wasn't me. You're mistaken. Like, it wasn't me. And then John Pardee's tour manager comes over and he's like, oh, you're the guy that like drove through the background of our music video on the bird scooter. Come to find out, the guy wasn't very nice. He's a cheater and a liar and a faker in all sense of the word. It's like one of the most horrific relationships, if not the most horrific relationship of my life. So now John Pardee gets to vet all the boyfriends.
You now have bouncers at the dating gate.
So if John Pardee thinks you're not good enough, I'm gonna listen.
All right, I'll get you out of here on this. Thank you so much for all the time. Update us on what's coming. I know a brand new arena tour's coming, right?
Yeah, I'm going on to, it's mostly like clubs and theaters.
Headline tour, yep.
Yeah, I'm headlining coming up in February through April. And we have the new album out, the book's out. I have it right here. You want to see it?
I love it, man.
For somebody. And, yeah, I'm excited. We're finally getting back out on the road. So get your tickets. It's called the Top of the World Tour. We're taking out Spencer Crandall, and I'm very excited.
I'm fascinated, too. I would love to chat with you about the process of writing your book. I'm going to let you go. We'll have that conversation another time.
Sure, let's do it.
The process for me was...
It took me a long time and a lot of like, my head hurts and I can't write another word right now.
Yep.
Like I have to.
I think that's a common refrain among many authors.
Very healing though. Very healing.
Same for me. Look, thank you. I'm so grateful for all of your time. I love your candor, and I meant what I said. You're impacting people's lives in a very positive way.
Well, thank you so much. Have a good one,
You too.
Marty.
Thank you.
Bye.